The Asymmetry of Diplomacy. The air in the room was thick, almost suffocating, despite the whisper-quiet hum of the central air conditioning. Outside the thick, bulletproof windows, the Washington, D.C. afternoon was bright and clear, but inside, a heavy geopolitical frost had settled over the resolute desk. Vladimir Putin sat perfectly still. His posture was rigid, his hands neatly folded in his lap, his pale blue eyes fixed unblinkingly on the man sitting across from him. He carried with him the ghosts of a cold, gray empire, the silent weight of the KGB, and the frozen streets of post-war Leningrad. Across the desk sat Donald Trump. He leaned back in his large leather chair, a stark contrast to his counterpart. His suit was a little too loose, his red tie a little too long, and his hands moved with the restless energy of a New York real estate mogul trying to close a difficult deal. The negotiations had hit a wall. Economic sanctions, military deployments, the invisible red lines drawn across the globe, the tension had reached a boiling point. Putin decided it was time to change the frequency of the conversation. He leaned forward, just a fraction of an inch, but the shift in gravity was palpable. The room seemed to shrink around him. "Donald," Putin began, his voice a low, gravelly baritone, his English heavily accented but meticulously deliberate. "Let me tell you a story, a true story from my childhood." Donald stopped fidgeting. He narrowed his eyes, sensing the shift in tone, and offered a slight, expectant nod. "Go ahead, Vladimir, I'm listening." After the war, Putin continued, the temperature in the room seemingly dropping another degree. "I lived in a communal apartment in Leningrad. It was a harsh place. We shared a kitchen, a toilet, the cold, and the rats. Huge, desperate things. One day I saw a rat on the staircase. I grabbed a stick and chased it. I was bigger, I was armed, and I was relentless." Putin let this silence hang for a second, his eyes locking on to Trump's. "I chased it down the hall until it reached a dead end. I cornered it. The rat had nowhere to run, no escape route. It was trapped." Putin slowly raised one finger, tapping the polished mahogany of the desk with a heavy, rhythmic thud. "And then the most remarkable thing happened. The rat stopped running. It turned around, and instead of cowering, it launched itself directly at my face." The Russian president leaned back, letting the psychological weight of the metaphor settle over the desk like a lead blanket. "A cornered rat will bite the cat, Donald. When you completely cut off an enemy's escape, when you leave them with no options, they will fight with a ferocity you cannot calculate. They will destroy everything, including you, to survive." Putin's gaze was like crushed ice. The threat was no longer veiled. It was sitting right there on the desk, baring its teeth. "So, I give you this advice, from one leader to another," Putin whispered, his voice dropping to a chilling register. "Do not push us to the brink. Do not back Russia into a corner." For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the background. It was the ultimate standoff between the cold-blooded intelligence officer and the ultimate American showman. Trump stared at Putin. His expression was unreadable. Then, slowly, a smirk began to form at the corner of his mouth. He uncrossed his arms, placed his hands flat on the desk, and looked around the room. He looked at the smoothly curved walls, the arched windows, and the completely circular rug beneath their feet. He looked back at the former KGB agent, let out a short, breathy chuckle, and flashed a billion-dollar grin. "No way, Vladimir," Trump said, his voice booming, instantly shattering the carefully constructed Russian ice. He leaned in, pointing a finger toward the ceiling. "There is no corner here. This is the Oval Office."